This virtual tour covers National Naval Aviation Museum displayed aircraft that were operational between the post-Korean War era through today. The Marine Corps helicopter Seawolf Squadron employed the Bell UH-1 Iroquois helicopter when patrolling Vietnam's Mekong Delta. Sikorsky's VH-3D Sea King is the President's primary short-range transportation aircraft and uses the Marine One call sign when the President is aboard. Sikorsky's CH-34 Seahorse was the primary airlift platform for Marine Corps' heliborne assault operations in the early years of the Vietnam War. They were used in many ways, as gunships and for medical evacuation, search and rescue, and anti-submarine warfare. Sikorsky's CH-37 Mojave could carry over 20 combat troops, but its greatest value was transporting vehicles and cargo, loading and unloading material through clamshell doors in its nose. Boeing's CH-46 Sea King served the Marine Corps from Vietnam until his 2015 retirement. They also served in Desert Storm, Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. 12 Sea Kings were typically carried on Marine amphibious assault ships to transport troops ashore. Sikorsky's HH-52 Seaguard is a search and rescue helicopter and is fully amphibious. Seaguards have a folding platform along the side of the aircraft and a winch above the door. They served in the Coast Guard for 26 years and reportedly were responsible for saving in excess of 15,000 people. Sikorsky's H-3 Sea King started as a medium-lift cargo and personnel transport aircraft. The Navy added an anti-submarine warfare package, making it a submarine hunter. It was again adapted to a search and rescue platform for service in Vietnam. Later, Sea Kings were instrumental in recovering astronauts and space capsules during the Gemini and Apollo projects. Bell's AH-1C Cobra served as the Marine Corps' primary attack helicopter since 1970. They operate from Navy amphibious warfare carriers and forward operating bases in support of Marine Corps forces. The Marine Corps is the primary user of the Sikorsky CH-53 Sea Stallion heavy-lift helicopter. Sea Stallions have been in use since 1966 and are still used today. It is the largest and heaviest helicopter in the U.S. military and can either carry 37 combat-equipped Marines, 24 wounded personnel on litters, or 8,000 pounds of cargo. Bell's TH-57C Rangers entered naval service in 1968. Prospective Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard helicopter pilots spend approximately 106 hours flying the Sea Ranger before receiving their wings. They were also used for photo, chase, and utility missions. Sikorsky's SH-60 Seahawks is a versatile platform employed in anti-submarine and anti-ship roles. Other Seahawks missions ranged from search and rescue, drug interdiction, cargo lift, and special operations forces insertion into hostile landing zones. They operate from any air-capable Navy ships. This early version of the Beech T-34 Mentor became operational during the 1950s and was used by the Navy for primary pilot training. The Navy operated the T-34 for over 20 years, accumulating almost 100,000 flight hours per year. Rockwell's T-2 Buckeye was an all-purpose intermediate and advanced jet trainer. Its wings derived from the FJ-1 Fury and its control system was similar to that of the T-28 Trojan. Buckeyes incorporated under-wing hardpoints for weapons training and arresting gear for carrier qualification. Northrop's T-38 Talon is a twin-engine supersonic jet trainer. Talons were used at the Naval Test Pilot School and the Navy Fighter Weapons School, more commonly known as Top Gun. North American Rockwell's T-39 Saberliner trained naval flight officers in radar navigation and airborne radar intercept procedures. The Saberliner was subsequently introduced into the Student Naval Flight Officer program. Grumman's TC-4 Academe, introduced in 1967, trained bombardiers, navigators, and pilots for operations in the A-6 Intruder. Academes included an intruder nose ray dome, a simulated intruder cockpit, and 4 consoles for intruder crew training. 4 simulated bombing missions were flown at one time, saving wear and tear on the intruders. Douglas's TA-4J started as a training version for the A-4 Skyhawk. They were such good trainers that the Navy adopted them for all their advanced jet fighter and attack pilot training. The Blue Angels used the Lockheed C-130 Hercules to transport their personnel and equipment supporting the demonstration team. Nicknamed Fat Albert, this aircraft participated in the airshow in both flying demonstrations and positioning the parachute team for their jumps. 2 jet-assisted takeoff bottles power the takeoffs, enabling Fat Albert to climb almost straight up. Grumman's C-1 Trader is a carrier-based onboard delivery variant of the S-2 Tracker. Douglas's C-9 Skytrain is the naval version of the commercial DC-9. It was a personnel and transport aircraft modified with a cargo door forward of the wing. This aircraft is named the City of Marietta. Beechcraft's C-12 Huron is used for short-range personnel transport. It is also used as a multi-engine pilot trainer. North American Rockwell's OV-10 Bronco was a rugged multi-mission aircraft that served the Navy, Marine Corps and Air Force. Broncos served the Marines in Vietnam from January 1969 until April 1972, providing interdiction of enemy logistics and fire support for Marine SEALs and river boats. They flew in Marine squadrons into the 1990s, including combat missions in Operation Desert Storm. North American's A-5 Vigilante was introduced in June 1961 as a carrier-based nuclear strike aircraft. The addition of nuclear missile submarines to the Navy's arsenal reduced Vigilantes to being a plane without a mission. An RA-5C tactical strike reconnaissance variant saw extensive service during the Vietnam War. Unfortunately, they suffered the largest loss rate of any naval aircraft during the war. Grumman's S-2F Tracker replaced 2 plane hunter-killer aircraft in anti-submarine warfare operations. The Tracker quickly established itself as the Navy's frontline carrier-based anti-submarine aircraft. Trackers served in this role for over 2 decades. Lockheed's S-3 Viking was a carrier-based all-weather long-range multi-mission aircraft. It was the only jet aircraft that flew anti-submarine missions for over 30 years. Viking missions shifted to surface warfare and aerial refueling of a carrier battle group in the late 90s. Lockheed's P-3 Orion is a high-performance anti-submarine warfare patrol aircraft with extensive detection gear and equipped to carry torpedoes, depth bombs, mines or nuclear weapons. In the event of full-scale war, the Orion's primary mission was to locate and eliminate Soviet Navy ballistic missile and fast attack submarines. At its height, the P-3 community consisted of 24 active-duty fleet patrol squadrons. P-3s were used to hunt down third-generation narco submarines that were used in smuggling operations and is still in service. Grumman's E-1 Tracer was the first purpose-built airborne early warning aircraft that served from 1958 to 1977. During the Vietnam War, E-1s provided combat air patrol fighters with target vectors, and controlled alpha strikes over North Vietnam. With a search radius of 250 to 300 miles, the Tracer provided early warnings of enemy MiG activity. Douglas's EA-1 is an electronic countermeasures version of the AD Skyraider. Between 1965 and 1968, they supported air strikes by jamming North Vietnamese radar. Douglas's EA-3B was the electronic reconnaissance version of the A-3 Sky Warrior. The fiberglass radome, called the Canoe, housed the surveillance antennas. For most of the Vietnam War, EA-3BS flew from Da Nang Air Base, providing electronic reconnaissance capability over the Ho Chi Minh Trail and all the way north to Haiphong Harbor. Northrop Grumman's EA-6B Prowler was an electronic countermeasures platform based on the A-6 Intruder. The Prowler carried anti-radiation missiles that could suppress enemy radar, ensuring the survivability of strike aircraft and jamming enemy communications. Northrop Grumman's X-47B is a demonstration unmanned combat aerial vehicle designed for carrier-based operations. The Navy integrated it into carrier operations alongside manned aircraft, and by May 2015 the primary test program was declared complete. Douglas's A-3D Sky Warrior is a jet-powered carrier-based strategic bomber. Sky Warriors were the heaviest aircraft operating from aircraft carriers, leading to the nickname the Whale. Douglas's A-4 Skyhawk is a carrier-capable attack aircraft first introduced in 1956. Its 5 hardpoints support a variety of missiles, bombs, and other munitions. Skyhawks were the Navy's primary light attack aircraft used over North Vietnam early in the campaign. They retired from the Marines in 1998 and from the Navy in 2003. Chance Vaught's F-8 Crusader was a carrier-based fighter that could break the sound barrier in level flight. It was nicknamed Last of the Gunfighters as its primary armament was 20mm cannon when radar-guided missiles were becoming the norm. The Crusader was the first operationally equipped jet aircraft to fly faster than 1,000 miles per hour. Photoreconnaissance RF-8s played a critical role during the Cuban Missile Crisis, providing intelligence on Soviet missiles in Cuba. McDonnell's F-4 Phantom II established over a dozen world speed, altitude, and time to climb records in just 28 months. It relied on radar-guided missiles and required a radar intercept officer to operate its advanced sensors and weapons systems. A Phantom II could carry more than 18,000 pounds of weapons on 9 external hardpoints, including air-to-air missiles, air-to-ground missiles, and various bombs. During the Vietnam War, the F-4 served as the principal air superiority fighter for the Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps and became important in the ground attack and aerial reconnaissance roles late in the war. Grumman's A-6 Intruder was the world's first all-weather attack aircraft. The Intruder's multi-sensors system enabled a higher degree of bombing accuracy and detected ground undulations as small as a plowed field. It was in service with the Navy and Marine Corps between 1963 and 1997. LTV's A-7 Corsair II was a carrier-capable subsonic light attack aircraft. The Corsair II had nearly double the payload and a greater range than the A-4 that it replaced. Grumman's F-14 Tomcat answered the Navy's requirement for a fleet defense fighter that could engage high-altitude bombers from well beyond visual range. Tomcats could engage multiple hostiles over 90 miles away. The F-14 had a highly effective variable sweep wing, enabling it to operate at a wide range of airspeeds. Its first deployment came in 1974 aboard USS Enterprise, replacing the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. The F-14 served as the Navy's primary maritime air superiority fighter, fleet defense interceptor, and tactical aerial reconnaissance platform until 2006. The Navy acquired General Dynamics F-16 Vipers for use as adversary assets for dissimilar air combat training. This F-16N has simulated Soviet markings and was used at an adversary at Top Gun School. McDonnell Douglas and Northrop teamed up to develop the FA-18 Hornet, which can perform air-to-air and air-to-ground missions. It became the frontline naval strike fighter shortly after fleet introduction in the mid-1980s. The Hornet is highly maneuverable and instrumented to optimize single-pilot control of numerous weapons systems. The aircraft can perform fighter escort, fleet air defense, suppression of enemy air defenses, air interdiction, close air support, and aerial reconnaissance. They were retired in 2019, replaced by the Super Hornet. McDonnell Douglas's AV-8B Harrier II, introduced in 1985, is a ground attack aircraft capable of vertical or short takeoff and landing. It is primarily employed on light attack or multi-role missions, ranging from close air support of ground troops to armed reconnaissance, and is still in service. The United States Navy Blue Angels Flight Demonstration Squadron's mission is to showcase the pride and professionalism of the United States Navy and Marine Corps. The museum's Blue Angel atrium displays 4 Blue Angel A-4 Skyhawks flying in the diamond formation. USS Saratoga took part in the Vietnam War and Operation Desert Storm. She was stationed in the Gulf of Tonkin 7 times in 1972. USS Ronald Reagan supported both Operations Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. USS H.W. Bush is the final Nimitz-class supercarrier. I hope you enjoyed this virtual tour of the National Naval Aviation Museum's Vietnam and modern era aircraft.